Poverty. Now that's a difficult matter. So long as we treat poverty as something relative, that is, so long as the term poverty denotes the lowest stratum of society in respect to other strata, it will always continue to exist. But even when a society still has poverty, the conditions of that state can still be much better improved to a point where being at the lowest of the low simply becomes a well-given opportunity to hold a reliable job and a small home. This issue, however, must be resolved, for the state of our society is only as good as its weakest link. The effects of poverty together hold society from reaching its potential. When we allow drug addiction to happen, we get poverty. When we leave mental illness unattended, we get poverty. Corruption, social inequality, and the ebb and flow of the economy all lead to poverty. The lack of education is perhaps the most important cause of poverty. About 43% of Americans who either did not attend high school or college are in poverty. All of you are sitting in a classroom right now, earning an education, preparing yourselves to achieve great heights in the future. Go to the inner city and things won't look as bright. According to a Pew Research poll, 47% of surveyed Americans believe that the government isn't doing enough to help the impoverished, but at the same time, 51% see it as unaffordable for the government. It is imperative that we find a solution to quell the issue of poverty, or else society will continue to get increasingly out of hand, whether that be in the form of crime or health. Our solution emphasizes access to education as a key investment to elevate people from the poverty level. We also define poverty as the state of not being able to support oneself with the necessities that we define as nutrition, shelter, and clothing. Our solution focuses on redirecting funds from welfare programs and into a more holistic program that provides, most importantly, educational funding, but also necessities as defined earlier in order to complement the education. Most importantly, these new welfare programs must require, like food stamps, that the recipient spend the money exclusively on the things necessary to help him out of poverty. We look at California first and foremost, the state that houses almost 30% of the nation's welfare recipients. If we can help quell the problem in California, it may become easier to focus our efforts later on the nation as a whole. First off, we must redistribute a portion of the monthly cash grants that Californian welfare recipients receive, $638, to our expanded welfare program that will include, most importantly, education and food and housing, and clothing to go along with it. Certain programs like the California Summer Food Service and the California National School Breakfast and Lunch Program are some of the programs that need to be merged with our service, which will provide sufficient funding for nutritional needs. On the national level, Pell Grants should be modified. These grants give cash to undergraduates to encourage them to pursue postgraduate education. But what guarantee is there that this funding will be used for that? If we can instead save that money for our proposed program, we can guarantee that the higher education is provided. Even if it be free, at least we know that we are funding for a good cause. We believe that by investing in education, we can provide the victims of poverty with knowledge that will enable them to pursue an actual career. This will help them be productive in the workplace and be wise with their spending. There are many ways that we can go about actually providing this education. We can focus on creating and funding public trade schools as an option. These schools will focus on teaching individuals as apprentices for more experienced tradesmen. These apprenticeships will pay the individuals, but a portion of the sums will feed back into their further education that is part of our program. There remain, of course, many problems and difficulties. Poverty is too vast, and without a complete deconstruction of the concept using the palpable handhold of the class, it will persist. Even with this solution, we are still reliant on welfare, which means others are still relying on others' money, which might be viewed as redistribution of wealth, something to which many are opposed. There still exists the lumpen proletariat, who may not want to participate in the new programs, and there still exists the physically and mentally handicapped, who may not be able to participate. Philosophers from Moore to Marx have failed to answer what to do with a formal class of people, and we are no better equipped to say how a society can practically deal with them. At its core, poverty is an issue that has no simple cause and therefore no simple solution. Because of this, poverty must be taken on step by step over a long period of time. It must be fought generation after generation. Our strategy must be adapted and molded over time as poverty itself evolves. Our solution is one of many, and its effects would only be fully witnessed after many decades.